Welcome to the Power of Biz YouTube channel. My name is Tim Delaney, and over the past 11 years, I've purchased businesses and real estate to build my financial independence. My journey began with buying my first business with just 10% down, and through hard work and strategic decisions, I've been able to create the life that I want. I started this channel to share my story and experiences with the hope that I can help you do the same. Whether you're looking to break free from the 9-to-5 grind, build long-term wealth, or take control of your financial future, you're in the right place. Join me as we explore the ins and outs of buying businesses, the challenges and rewards, and the practical steps you can take to create the life you desire. Together, we'll navigate this exciting journey to financial freedom. How and why did I go from owning a small business to acquiring millions of dollars of real estate? I'm going to dive into that topic today and enlighten you on my attitude or thoughts on passive income versus active income. In 2013, I purchased my wine and liquor store. It was meant to be my job and a business that I planned to grow and eventually take myself out of over time. By 2018, I was ready to start exploring other opportunities to expand my income streams. And one thing that I came back to over and over again was real estate. This is something that, going back to when I was 16, I remember somewhere between 14 and 16, I remember walking to our brand new hockey arena in downtown Buffalo with my father and seeing all these derelict old buildings from 1800s, early 1900s that were just vacant in this neighborhood called the Cobblestone District. That just, I remember even thinking then, like, it would be so awesome if I could buy these and turn them into lofts. I don't even know where I heard of that term or where it came from, but it just intrigued me, and I felt like it would be such a great opportunity. Back then, I assumed that you needed to have a lot of money to do something like that in real estate, and so it never really came up. I was a teenager. I was going off to college, doing other things, but real estate was always in my mind as something that could generate wealth, could generate income, and it was something that was intriguing to me. So have this successful business. I had started building it up, hiring more employees, and it operated in a plaza that I rented from the owner of the plaza. 5 years of paying my rent on time every month, being respectful, dealing with him when he needed something from me, asking him nicely when I needed something from him. We had a good relationship. He was a person that had bought my portion of the building over 40 years earlier and then had built the rest of the plaza himself. So he knew it was his, and it just, he knew everything about it. He owned it for a long time, and he just collected the rent from everybody. Unfortunately, he actually just passed away yesterday, which was kind of sad to see him go, but he was a great person and helped get my foot in the door of real estate. So almost from the day I bought the liquor store, I had asked John if he would ever be interested in selling the plaza, and when he was ready, if he would let me know. His answer to me was always he would never sell it before he passed away because of the capital gains implications of selling an asset like that. When your basis, his cost basis was basically zero. So whatever he sold it for, he would have to pay capital gains on all of that profit, which wasn't really something he wanted to do. So every once in a while, I would throw it out there, especially when I saw him doing a big project like repaving a section of the parking lot or fixing a roof, things like that. I'd kind of throw it out there that, you ready to sell yet, John? And the answer was always no. I know his answer. Until one day in 2018, when I just coincidentally had started getting much more serious about real estate. I had started doing a lot more research, started listening to more podcasts, started reading more books, and I had actually just put an offer in on my first investment house. And the next day, while I was waiting for an answer on that offer, I stopped into John's office to drop off my rent check, and we had a major parking lot repair going on at the time, repaving a big section of the parking lot. And I said to John, who's in his 80s at this point, I said, "Aren't you sick of this yet, John?" And he looked up at me and said, "Yep, I'm ready to sell." Bells started going off in my head, and I was fortunate that I had already put myself in a position of doing some research. I definitely didn't have the knowledge then that I have now about real estate, but at least it was something to go off of. And then in the back of my head, I'm secretly hoping I don't get the offer accepted on the other house that I just put in. So John was ready to sell. He had talked to his accountant and son and figured out that if we structured the deal in a certain way, he wouldn't have to pay all those capital gains. And that was something that I was aware of, and actually a strategy that I had been thinking about bringing up to him sometime soon, wherein he would hold the mortgage on the property. He would seller finance the deal. When he does this, or when anybody does this, you only have to pay capital gains on the portion of the principal that you receive. And so what John proposed to me was very simple. He had already kind of thought this through. Was he wanted to sell the plaza for $1 million. He wanted to finance up to 90% of that purchase at a 5% interest rate for 20 years, and that was his offer. And he had already had somebody else interested in the plaza. John and I, knowing each other for 5 years, building that relationship with somebody is very important. So he saw that I paid my bill every month. So now if somebody's going to finance something, he has that history of 5 years of me always paying my rent on time, no matter what, no matter whether it was slow season, busy season, he had his rent check on time every time. So this is somebody, if he's going to hold a mortgage, can trust me to make those monthly payments on time every time. 90% seller financed still meant I would need to come up with $100,000. The store was doing well at this point, but not well enough that where I had amassed that much cash sitting on hand. So I had to figure something out. And psychologically, trying to negotiate something like this with somebody that really didn't want to sell, this was his life's work, I knew that price point was going to be important. That 7-figure, $1 million price mark is significant for a lot of people. So trying to beat him down $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 wasn't really in the cards for me, knowing that psychological hurdle. But the aspect that I could negotiate with was the interest rate and or the time frame of the repayment. So kind of always work with what you have to work with. Focus on the terms rather than always the price. Because what I did is went back to him and offered 4% interest instead of 5%, which made my monthly payment significantly smaller and also allowed me to pay down that principal much faster, which was important because after 5 years, I was going to have to pay him off in full according to our original terms of the deal. So it was a 20-year amortization, which means that the payments were paid as though it was going to take me 20 years to pay it down, but after 5 years, I was going to need to pay him out completely. But back to that other $100,000. So where was that going to come from? I didn't have it. Wasn't going to be able to just create it out of thin air. But I had two options. One is because this was a seller finance and not a bank finance deal, I had the option to borrow that money from another lender, another private lender. Or because my business was doing well, I could have gone to the bank and asked them to refinance my business and or get lines of credit to pull out and fund that deal. I didn't really like the lines of credit options because this is 2018 going into 2019. I knew interest rates were low. I was concerned that if I got a line of credit with a variable interest rate, that things could go up over time and cause my monthly payments to get substantially larger. Because I was figuring out a way to finance this deal with 100% financing, my actual monthly profit cash flow on this deal was very small. After all the rents came in, subtracting the mortgage payments, and then subtracting all the monthly expenses and the capital expenses of fixing and replacing roofs and HVAC units, I really wasn't standing to make much money. I was looking at it more as a long-term appreciation and a long-term securing my wine and liquor store as a place where I wouldn't have to worry about a new landlord coming in and drastically raising rents or even kicking me out because they wanted to use it for something else. So financing in place, I ended up going with another private lender for that other 10% at a fixed interest rate for 20 years so that I could balance out. Together the two payments would be fixed for 5 years. I wouldn't have to worry about them increasing until I needed to pay John off for that. Turns out after 5 years, he still wasn't ready he didn't really want that balloon payment because of the capital gains that he stood to pay on that. So we ended up renegotiating at a slightly higher interest rate and re-extending that term of that loan so I could free up a little bit more capital every month to make some other additional repairs that have been needed to the plaza. Long story short, I guess the moral of the story is if you're looking to get into real estate or anything in general, number one, put yourself out there. Let people know what you want to do. Let people know that you're interested. If I had never said anything to John, going back back to the beginning, but especially on that day where he was in the mood to sell, he had already started thinking about it, he might not have thought about me. He might not have thought that I would have the money or the resources or the energy to do it. And number two, make sure you keep good relationships with everybody you do business with. The fact that I was paying him on time every month put me in a very good position for him to trust me to continue making those payments, this time just in the form of a mortgage instead of a rent payment. It's putting yourself out there has come up again and again in my real estate investing, and it's something that I probably should be doing even more of. Just listed a house yesterday for sale that I've already gotten some calls from people about interest in doing other things together. So make sure putting yourself out there, make sure you keep good relationships with people, and just to take that next step. Now, if you're running a small business already, or if you're looking to buy a small business but then transition into real estate, make sure you're paying your bills, make sure that you keep good books, make sure that you're in good relationships with banks and anybody else you plan to do business. That's kind of it in a nutshell for how not much of a nutshell, but that's how I came to buy the plaza. One of the things I didn't touch on earlier that I'll just give you a brief overview of why I chose this. In addition to my long-standing interest in real estate, wine and liquor in New York and most states is a very highly regulated industry. This lends itself to a high barrier of entry, which means that it's not easy for a lot of competition to pop up, and I will definitely do a deeper dive into that term barrier of entry in a future video. But also, because it's highly regulated, one change in the law could make my livelihood, my business, much less profitable in the future. For example, in New York State, if wine is allowed to be sold in grocery stores, I will face a significant impact. So besides my general interest in real estate, I always knew that I needed to look and diversify my opportunities because of that potential risk down the road. And real estate was a good path for that because it doesn't involve a very heavy involvement on a day-to-day basis. It's something that's slightly more passive. It's not passive. Don't ever believe anybody that says real estate is passive investing. If you are managing it yourself, you are going to need to be active to some extent. But it was a way for me to diversify without having to jump into something in a 50, 60 hour a week mentality like I did when I first purchased the wine and liquor store. Hope this video helps you out with some thought processes, or if you're looking to get into your first real estate deal and you have a business, or even if you don't have a business, hopefully this helps in some way, shape, or form. If I didn't touch on anything that you're curious about, please leave a comment below, ask your questions. I look forward to hearing from you. And if this was enjoyable or helpful at all, please like and subscribe. Really look forward to connecting with you more in the future. Cheers.